YouTube, I got a request to make a video about some of the most ridiculous opera plots out there, and that sounds like a fun idea, so let's do it. Opera has always been known to have absurd plots, characters, and just general situations. Things began to get really rough in the 18th century. A prominent, if not well-remembered, German author by the name of Friedrich Melchior, the Baron of Grimm, stated that the only thing that keeps us from going crazy over Italian opera buffa is that the librettos generally lack common sense. One librettist known for such ridiculous plots was a guy named Carlo Goldoni. He may not have been particularly popular in Italy, but he was very popular throughout the rest of Europe. One of my favorite examples of his work is an opera called Il Mondo della Luna, which was set by Franz Joseph Haydn. The main concept of the operas is the same as pretty much all operas out there. There are some people in love with each other, and then stuff happens and gets in the way, and then they have to try and deal with the situation. Basically. Okay, so here's the gist. A guy named Eclitico loves a girl named Clarice, and then there's another guy named Ernesto who loves Clarice's sister Flaminia. Both Eclitico and Ernesto are apparently pretty swell guys, but they aren't rich enough to allow the father of the sisters, Buonafede, to accept them as son-in-laws. And then there's also a servant of Ernesto whose name is Checo, and he's in love with the servant of Buonafede, whose name is Lisetta. Now, Buonafede, the nasty old lecher, is desperate to boink Lisetta, and because she's, a conniving wench, she pretends that she's in love with him and says that, I'm faithful only to you, I love only you! Because, all she wants is actually his money. She just wants a piece of that money, honey. So Eclitico, Ernesto, and Checo decide to work together to trick Buonafede into letting them marry his daughter's/servant. Their plan is genius. Trick Buonafede into thinking he's on the moon. Wait, you may ask, how would this get them to marry the people they want to marry? That's a really valid question. Anyway, so Eclitico tells Buonafede that he got this new telescope that allows him to see the society of people living on the moon. Buonafede, being an absolute idiot, believes that there are people living on the moon, and so he decides to look into this telescope and see the lives of people living up there. Eclitico tells his servants to hold little doll figurine things in front of the lens of the telescope so that it looks like they're interacting with each other from a far distance because Buonafede is looking through the telescope at them. Buonafede sees these lunar social interactions and is very intrigued by this society of the moon. Later, Eclitico tells Buonafede that he's been invited by the Emperor of the Moon to come up to the moon and visit and see the court. In order to travel to the moon, Eclitico says he has to drink a special potion. And of course, Buonafede is super jealous and also wants to go to the moon, so he asks Eclitico if he can have half of his potion. So, Eclitico pretends to drink half of the potion and then gives the rest of it to Buonafede, who promptly passes out. He dreams in his sleep that he's flying up to the moon. Fun! When he wakes up, he's in a strange garden and is being entertained by ballets and people wearing very elegant clothing, which of course means that he's on the moon. Eclitico introduces Buonafede to the Emperor of the Moon, who's actually Checo in disguise, and tells him that he's also going to bring up Buonafede's daughters and servant. He also tells him that, luckily, when women are on the moon, they become really docile and subservient. So, huzzah to that! So the girls appear on the moon, and then Checo, as the Emperor, pretends that upon seeing Lisetta, he falls madly in love with her, and he demands that Lisetta be made the Empress of the Moon. They then hold a very confusing, convoluted wedding ceremony that actually secretly marries all three couples with Buonafede's permission. When he is told what actually happened and that the marriage ceremony is real and that he's not actually on the moon, Buonafede is pissed as hell. The three couples decide to then lock Buonafede up in his own house, and that the price of his freedom would be forgiveness of his daughters and also providing them their dowries. Unable to find a way out of his ridiculously idiotic situation, he relents. And they all lived happily ever after. I'm sorry. What? Of course! The first thing I would think of if I were trying to marry someone and their parents didn't want me to marry them is to trick the parents into thinking that they're suddenly on the moon. Of course! The plot is impossible to follow even if you speak Italian and are watching the show. It just makes no sense! And thus, we have one of the most ridiculous opera plots ever created. There are plenty more operas that are ridiculous as well, and if you enjoyed this one, then let me know and I can make some more videos like this. Also, if you think you have a plot that beats this one for absolute insanity, please send it my way. And now for a shout out to my new friend, Ethnomusicology Explained. His videos are very informative and they delve into the world of non-Western music. Oh, and he narrates his videos in an adorable Scottish accent, so there's that too. Musicology.